time to get to post-processing, starting with EQ. For those of you who don't know, EQing is all about boosting and reducing certain frequencies. To start EQing, we need to know something called the human frequency spectrum. The human frequency spectrum describes a range of frequencies that a human can hear. It starts from 0 Hz and goes up to 200,000 Hz, which sometimes is referred to as 2 kHz. The point of EQing is to make sure that all the elements in the mix is well balanced within a range. You may think of your mix as 3 boxes: the low end, the mid-range, and the high end. For example, if you want to fit an 808 in the mix, make sure none of those elements that aren't supposed to be in the low end are affecting low end frequencies. This way the 808 has enough space to fit without causing muddiness or clipping. So we're going to go into the process. I'm going to show you live and just guide you through how we go about EQing the beat that we have. Let's get right to it. So when it comes to post-processing, I like to think of things in sections. So I like to think of like the drums, melody, and then effects in sections. So I like to equate them in that sense. So in the low end or the drums, what you'll find mostly is the problematic areas exist between the 808 and kick, or things that occupy the same frequency range. So before we get to that, I'm going to choose the melody, the main melody, and take out some of this low end data that is not needed. This is not needed information, it's just creating a rumble. So let's just take that out, and then we can go back to the 808 and see how well it's working with the kick. In this sense, I think that the low end, the kick, and the 808 are working well together because the sound selection was superb. Now, let's say we did want to create more clarity in the kick. The first tip I want to give you is to reduce before you boost, which means you take out before you add in. And you want to do this by sweeping, where you choose a band and you increase the volume and sweep across the frequency spectrum to find the problematic area that sounds bad, or the area that you want to create clarity for another sound. Let's say it would be the kick in this scenario. So we found it, we bring it down to a desired volume, and there we have a sweep and cut. Now I'm going to look at the main melody in relationship to the drums as a whole, and I'm going to have to take out some frequencies that I think are causing it to be muddy. So we're going to go to the main, open it up, and what we're going to do is another sweep. Here I have the volume increase, the Q is tightened. We're just gonna look around, hearing this low and mid. I hear competing frequencies that is making it sound muddy. I tighten the Q a little bit, and then I just cut it. Just like that, we did another sweep. And here I'm still hearing some muddiness closer to the low, mid, and bass area. So I can make the Q bigger to get a more wide range of listening area, and tighten it when I find where I want to notch out. And just like that, we made it sound a lot cleaner just by taking out those frequencies. Now I'm going to continue and do the same thing with the rest of the melody sound, starting with this vocal loop right here. Let's say I like the sound of this vocal chop a lot. You can do something called a boost and cut on 2 different sounds simultaneously. So let's say we have this vocal chop right here in the beat, and we like how it sounds, we want to bring more clarity to it. So we boost around this 13 kHz range at about plus 2.5 to 3 dB. And then we go back to the main sound that is existing kind of in the same area, and we do a cut with the same Q in that same range. That way we can create some room for the vocal chop to exist without adding more volume. Let's take a listen to how it sounds after we make this cut. And the last thing I want to go over with you while using this EQ is that you have to counter the volume changes that you affect using the EQ. So let's say I did a 3 dB boost here. I need to equate for that with volume. So I have to bring the whole volume of the EQ change that I made down 3 dB. So the difference that I'm hearing is not just due to volume, and actually because I changed something and made the sound fit better. So let's see the difference. If I left it here, it will just sound better just because volume increased, but we don't want the volume to be the thing that changed. We want the whole tone of it to change. So we bring that down and equate for the volume changes that we affected. Plus we did all that leveling in the beginning just to get everything situated in a certain area. So why mess that up? So that's the last thing I want to leave you with when you're using an EQ. Quick recap, the things you need to remember when using this tool is to reduce before you boost, and the way you can find problematic frequencies or competing areas is by sweeping across the frequency spectrum and then notching or boosting the area that you find fit. The last thing is to equate for volume changes. You need to match the volume that was previously found before you affected the sound with the EQ. Where do you EQ first? Well, you EQ competing sounds because you want to bring clarity to everything. The goal is to have clarity and to be able to hear every sound clearly. So you EQ competing sounds like the kick and the 808 because they exist in the same frequency area, or parts in your melody that exist in the same frequency area. Will it be able to create space and everything can exist in a free manner? Now we're going to move on to the next part of the post-processing.